Hello, I'd like to give a short, very straightforward demonstration of what we mean when we are talking about voltage going through the human body and being able to modulate or patch into a sound which is either created by or modulated by voltage. So to get us started, I will plug in a analog oscillator here into a VCA. And if we turn it, yeah, it's already turned up a little bit. Let me just take that down slightly. There we can hear the oscillator quite clearly. Let me just turn that up slightly here so there's no question about what's going on. Now, if I take a second patch cable and I patch it into the volt per octave on the oscillator, which is a standard modular pitch input, and I press my finger down on it, you will immediately hear a considerable change in the sound. So the voltage from my fingertip goes directly into the pitch input and creates a kind of a big change in timbre, a kind of a frequency modulation type effect. So we get this really quite interesting change. It's quite difficult to make it more intense if I press down, but you can get a slight change as you press up and down on it with the finger. Okay, so if I take this end here that's going into the pitch of the oscillator and I plug it into an LFO, the LFO has a little bit of offset in, so you can hear that there's a certain amount of voltage already in the LFO before it's on. And when I turn it on, you'll hear a considerable modulation there. So we can hear the LFO sweeping up and down the whole range of the pitch input. And we can affect the intensity with which it does this, which also, of course, considerably increases the range of the sweep. So that in this case, intensity and range are the same. Okay, so just turn that off and leave the oscillator going. So in this case, I'm going to take the signal from the LFO and I'm going to press down with my left-hand finger here. We'll hear that sort of frequency modulation style effect. I'm going to turn the LFO on, and then with my right hand, I'm going to connect the LFO through my body. So there you can hear straight away the LFO is going, not with the intensity of the LFO without my body, but nevertheless we can recognize it as a similar effect. You can also hear that in addition you have that interference from the initial voltage offset from my finger. So we go not from this but from this to this. And if I press down I can affect the intensity a little bit. What gets very interesting is if we use different parts of my body. So if I press it into my cheek, you'll hear a very low intensity LFO, but it's still there. But I guess it gets dispersed through my cheek. If I press down on my cheek, the intensity increases. Still not to the same level as the finger, but it does increase. If I go around my head, there on my forehead, it's quite intense. But then if I go into the center of my head, we get something very interesting. Quite a wide swoop, but it seems as though it's almost going into the negative. There's certainly a lot of voltage interference because there's a great deal of voltage going through your brain. So of course, this is going to get picked up on And I have to say, you can actually get a slight tingle from this. It's definitely electricity. It's not at a dangerous level, but I suppose it may not be that great an idea to do this for hours. But anyway, so you can see these modulation effects of moving around the body just with a very simple patch cable. Okay, so that's a very simple and slightly banal introduction to the idea of voltage moving through the body as a way of modulating with voltage a sound that can be modulated with voltage, whether it's a sound generated by voltage or not. Thank you.